In this video today, we're going to be talking about masculine and feminine consciousness. In my hand, I have this awesome article that's also a free PDF download that comes with this video. Make sure you download it. You got to see this thing. And this thing makes perfect sense. Rob, let me ask you, you're saying in this article that men and women can both hold the different polarities of masculine and feminine consciousness?
Yes, in the past, we accepted, even limited, males to being masculine and females to being feminine, in their language, their decisions, their behaviors, their values. And so that's what led to what we call gender roles. Now, as our culture evolves, we try to outgrow those limits and allow men and women to express themselves any way that they prefer. We give them the freedom of choice for people to be fully self-expressed and not be limited to only one side of their potential self-expression.
That makes perfect sense. So in today's world, aren't a lot of men more feminized and a lot of women more masculinized?
Yes, absolutely. Most of us don't realize it because our culture just has evolved.
That's awesome, because a lot of people that are watching, there's a percentage of people that you might be thinking masculine, feminine. Does this mean like a guy's wearing makeup and the woman is like dressed like a lumberjack or something? And it's not that at all. We're talking about consciousness. We're talking about energy. We're talking about reciprocals and how these are happening in every moment.
Generally today in our more modern culture, we realize that we have to grow beyond our first stage ways of being, our first stage issues. And that means we have to reach the second stage. As we're evolving out of our first stage gender roles, we actually have to access our reciprocal. And if people don't understand what reciprocal means, it just means like the day is not equal to the night. They're reciprocals, but when you put them together, you have wholeness. They're not equals, they're reciprocal. So if we're born with a masculine preference, in order to evolve, we actually have to move and learn about our reciprocal, our feminine capacity, our ability to express ourselves in feminine ways.
So you said expressing love.
Well, love is a feminine attribute, where vigilance or freedom is a masculine attribute. And so they go together. You have to love to be free, and you have to be free to love.
Like the yin-yang.
Yeah, the yin-yang, exactly. And in fact, what we're seeing is that when you really get calibrated to your own masculine and feminine consciousness, that you can see what the moment is really asking from you, whether it's compassion or empathy, or whether it's leadership and decisions or things like that. And so in the document that we talked about, the article really is a pair of columns where we have masculine characteristics on one side and feminine characteristics on the other. So if you want to check yourself and see, am I more masculine or am I more feminine, or when am I more of this way or that way, you can see the adjectives on one side, and if you go right across, you can see what the feminine reciprocal is. So if you're out of calibration with a moment, you can look at this chart and you can say, wow, I can see now I was causing problems by being masculine, and if I would have just chose my feminine in that moment, I would have served that moment much more accurately and with less damage or conflict or confrontation. And it works the other way too, where if you're being too feminine and the moment requires you to be more masculine, you can trace that list over to the other side and say, oh, I have to practice this in those moments so that I can choose more accurately how to express myself in my more masculine or more feminine way.
I also heard you say that getting in touch with your core is important too. Like if a man has naturally a masculine core or a woman has a feminine core, getting back in touch with your core, and then from there you can choose.
Sure. So we all, like in a previous video, we talked about the stages, and we all start out in the first stage. And so we're born with a preference. Our core, our truest, deepest identity, the essence of our consciousness, has a preference for a masculine or feminine way of serving the moment or interpreting the world.
I picture like the yin-yang sign, you know what I mean?
Yep. Sure, that actually is a demonstration of how the masculine and feminine fit together to create wholeness. So when we favor one over the other and we never actually choose the other, then we're not really in wholeness. We're in halfness of our potential. So when we come together in intimacy, that's when we feel like someone completes us,
Wow.
or that they're our soulmate, or we sense that our possibilities just double, at least. That's because these consciousness, they go together. As we start to outgrow our first stage stuff, we have to learn how to protect ourselves and serve ourselves, because in the first stage we kind of create a demand for our partner to serve our weaknesses, our underdeveloped parts, our scared or insecure parts, to submit to our controlling parts. So it's first stage, it's my distress that I demand you relieve. But as you grow, you start to realize, oh, I'm responsible. So in order to make that step to the second stage, we actually have to start to practice our reciprocal consciousness. So if we're born and we prefer a masculine consciousness, in the second stage we have to get better with our feminine options or opportunities. Every moment asks you for a masculine or a feminine offer, to offer yourself in those ways.
Actually, I run a service business, and I go into a lot of people's homes, and a lot of times the men are just laid back, really chilled and calm, and the women are calling the shots, and they're the one ordering the service, they're the one paying us.
Right, and there's nothing wrong or right about those. It's just a demonstration that that particular woman is more in her masculine, and her husband is more in his feminine.
But to do the opposite could feel like a threat.
Well, we're taught that it's a threat. And so our culture discourages masculine males because in history it tended to be first stage masculinity. But see, nowadays,
It's just my way or the highway.
you do what I say whether you like it or not. So that's the first stage masculine.
Yeah.
My distress, to relieve it, you have to do this. Or my control issue, so you have to do this.
But there's a much higher evolved version of this you're talking.
Absolutely. And that's what we try to reach for in personal mastery coaching, is to get to that fourth stage that we talk about
Yeah.
in the previous video. That is what we consider mastery.
What's an example of that?
Well, when you say, I do what you require,
Yeah.
whether I like it or not, it's a service.
Moment by moment.
Moment by moment. It's not to serve your codependence. It's to open you to your strength, to your third stage strength, or your fourth stage strength, or your second stage ability to reach a compromise and to build trust and those things, that we talked about in that video. So our fourth stage way of being is to have a third stage masculine or feminine choice in every moment. So I know those columns so well, maybe I don't, memorize all the adjectives. They're there just for reference. But I know, what feminine gifts are and what masculine gifts are, because when you're serving others, you're gifting. When you're in a first stage, you feel scarcity, like, you gotta get respect, you gotta get, service, or you gotta get, compassion, or, do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. But in the third stage, you want to give those things in a calibrated way, not in a soft kind of, what'll happen if I don't be a nice guy.
Yeah. And you actually coach people individually all the time on this stuff, and couples and everything, and help bring them up in their consciousness and realize all this.
Sure. When I look at clients, I don't necessarily look at their physical gender. I look at the gender of their consciousness. And that helps me determine how to help them where they're at, how to help them grow, how to help them develop, to make sure that, they're getting served. Their moment is asking me to, give something specific. And it's not what I want. It's what helps them to open further. beyond their habits of closure, beyond their inhibitions, their confusions, that sort of stuff. When we started coaching, you had
Yes.
a much stronger feminine shell. Now we've done so much masculine work that you have leadership, you have your own business,
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I was a total wuss.
Right. But you're still
I was, it's true.
so you're still working through some of that stuff, but you've made such progress that it answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So yeah, masculine and feminine consciousness is something you really want to look into. Make sure you download the free PDF article that comes with this. It's really great because there's these columns that describe exactly the attributes of masculinity and feminine energy. It's really energy, but this really ties it all together. So make sure you download that, and thank you very much.